What's that? It's me, Lisa. Bose Ultra Open Earbuds are one of my favorites. As a musician, sound is the most important part of the process. I've been so busy and always on the move, so if I can keep my music with me wherever I go, that would keep the inspiration going. The look of the Ultra Open Earbuds remind me of ear cups, so I would style it like an accessory. Check out Bose.com for more.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individuals participating in the show. All persons described or mentioned in the podcast should be considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This podcast contains subject matter such as violence and graphic descriptions along with adult language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
On November 17th, 2019, a 26-year-old man from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, visits his mother, says he's going to his storage locker to retrieve something and return home. He disappears without a trace. 6 days later, his truck is found 14 hours away on a rural logging road in Pemberton, British Columbia. It is completely burned. What happened? You're listening to Mysterious Brews Podcast, and tonight we bring you the case of Marshall Awasa.
Lethbridge Police, BCRCMP, and a private investigative team hired by Marshall Awasa's family continued to conduct an exhaustive search of the area where his burnt truck was last seen.
However, police have said there is no evidence to show anyone other than Awasa was present when the vehicle was burned.
Their expertise is in tracking, and so they're looking to see the tire marks that were there, and on a different area, they're wanting to check out if there's any tire tracks in certain areas that might match my brother's truck.
Awasa's sister, Paige Fogan, says she's been receiving updates from the PI team, adding she's given the investigators the treads from Awasa's shoes to help with the search efforts. She says the family appreciates the resources police have pulled together and also offers...
Welcome to a deep, dark, dank, moist basement somewhere in the bowels of Georgia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have returned for part 2, and you'll have to excuse me. I'm got a little stuffy head, fighting a little head cold, and as Coach so duly noted, I don't teach kids face to face, so the only person to blame is either my kid or my wife.
I'm gonna let her know you said that. I know she don't listen.
Yeah, just go ahead and text her. He's talking bad about you.
He done talk shit on the podcast about you.
She'd be like, so?
Yeah. She's like, nobody listens anyway. Who the hell gonna care?
Yeah, she's right. Oh, man. Well, so how is the great state of Tennessee after that squeaker?
Hey, SEC's tough, man. I mean, Alabama won by 2, Tennessee won by 6. I don't even know if Georgia played anymore. Who they played?
They played Mississippi State and tried to let them come back. So should be quite the interesting weekend coming up, though.
They might suspend your coach for shoving that kid.
They ain't. I've read a couple of articles. So they said that Sankey, I think, is the SEC commissioner. There was no malicious intent in that, and he reached out to the coach, and the kid didn't blow up right there. So I'm thinking if there was malicious intent, the kid would have been like, "Hey, mother," because you know kids overreact these days.
No,
I know that's hard to believe, Coach. But anyway, all right. So
yeah, I think he was just heated, and he's trying to get to his assistant. But
I thought he was going after the damn ref because of the call, but they said no, he was going after the defensive coordinator, I guess, to let him know that he did not appreciate what he called.
Yeah, that's what I saw. But hell, you can't be no damn Bo Schembechler and be punching kids anymore.
Yeah, that is true.
It wasn't Schembechler, was it? It's Ohio State coach.
Wasn't he there?
I think Bo Schembechler was the Michigan coach, and if I'm wrong, we're gonna get some hate mail.
We're all going. Well, we get hate mail anyway, so.
That's true.
We got a little love on the Pemberton Part 1.
Bo Schembechler was the Michigan coach. So
he stands corrected.
Let me look up. That's how much I hate Ohio State is I don't even know their damn coaches' names.
Yeah. Damn Yankees. So
Woody Hayes.
Oh, Woody Hayes. Peace Cat said that she is so happy to be included in the podcast, and we're doing a case from the great country of Canada.
Well, that's why we did it.
Just for her.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't we?
All right. So, don't have any new patrons.
Don't got any new 5-star reviews. That's sad.
Yeah, so we're just going to jump back into it, boys and girls. I will give you a disclaimer. These are, when we get to theories, these are internet theories. Don't be sending no hate this way. We are not implying that this is 100% factual. This is just what's out there. There's 2 camps. We'll get into it more in depth. And also, there are some rumors swirling around about the extracurricular activities of the people involved in the podcast. These are unclaimed. That's never been proven. So please keep that with a grain of salt. Also, you may want to go back and
there's rumors about our extracurricular activities. You said the people in the podcast.
Well, not people doing the podcast, but the people that we will cover in this episode.
Oh, I was about to say, man, I ain't got no extracurricular activities.
Yeah, I just come home, eat, sleep. That's all I do.
I go to Alabama.
Yeah.
And then pretty much watch movies in Alabama, which is great.
There's something to be said about just some comfort. You know, don't have to spend money.
Absolutely.
The other thing I wanted to say about this episode is you might want to revisit Part 1 because we are going to be intertwining a lot of characters. So you might get the old string and the map out, make you a list. So here we go, boys and girls. So when we left you in Part 1, we explained to you that when Mr. Owasa's truck was found burned to the ground, there was some things scattered around said truck, and we find out that they're not his. And more specifically, they were those of a man named Daniel Rioch. Now, Daniel was born March 16th, 1990. And there's not a whole lot out there about Daniel that I could find. He was a member of the First Nations. He was 5'9" tall, weighed 150 pounds, had brown hair and brown eyes. Now, Daniel struggled with drug abuse and drug use throughout most of his life, beginning when he was in his early teens. He worked mostly construction, and everyone liked Daniel. Would say that he was a good guy, even though he had some troubles. Now, Daniel's mother was a drug addict living on East Hastings in Vancouver. His mom was actually featured in a documentary filmed by the Vancouver Police Department in 1999 called Through a Blue Lens. Now, this documentary centered around the heroin epidemic in the city, and it talked about how police got to know the people who were repeat offenders. At the same time, there was a string of strange disappearances and murders of women in Vancouver. Daniel's mom, unfortunately, was one of these victims. She was found murdered.
I was going to say it was like a friend that killed her, like an acquaintance.
Yeah, I think you're right. I didn't see the guy's name, but they did hint around that it was someone she knew. She was actually found murdered at the age of 25 and dumped in an alley. Her murder was part of an unpublished scandal called The Missing Women of Downtown Vancouver. Now, this commission was ordered by the Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia to evaluate the police response after the string of murders happened. Now, I believe Daniel was at the most 10 when she was murdered. So he was behind the 8 ball early in life. And the good news is, after his mom's death, his uncle's family in Edmonton kind of adopted him. And this is not one of those tales where we talk about that he left a shitty situation and got into a greater shitty situation. His uncle's family was extremely down to earth. They really cared about Daniel. And Daniel would actually move back to the reservation in Squamish later in life. There, he would have 2 kids with his girlfriend, but as we have seen time and time again, the cycle's hard to break, and unfortunately, Daniel would begin to use drugs and have several run-ins with the local RCMP. His family and friends really cared about him and said he was a great guy who cared about his kids. So on November 25th, 2019 at 10 a.m., Daniel was picked up by the local RCMP and taken into custody. This was on a ranch north of Squamish near his reservation. Now, according to the reports, the ranch owner claimed that Daniel was very intoxicated, and that's why he called police. When RCMP finally arrives, they find him running around barely clothed on a bridge, babbling and not making any sense. From what I've seen and read, he is basically held in the drunk tank, and they let him sober up, which finally happens around 5 p.m. It's at this time that the RCMP releases him from their custody on Finch Drive. From this point, we see Daniel in a string of CCTV footage and photos, unlike Marshall. Now, this is the same day that the RCMP are at the site of Marshall's burned out truck. So hikers find the truck on the 23rd of November, and the RCMP make it to the scene on the 25th.
Yeah.
So at 6 p.m., just 1 hour after being released, Daniel is seen on surveillance video at Tim Hortons on Progress Way. At 6:45 p.m., he is seen at the Squamish Walmart. At 7:07, he is seen back at the Tim Hortons on Progress Way. And then he is seen getting a ride from a friend to the Chica area. At 11:30 p.m., Daniel's vehicle was believed to have been seen parked at Lewis Drive and Squamish Valley Road.
Well, we don't have Tim Hortons around here. I wonder if it's good.
The people that have gone there,
let Peace Cat tell us.
People that
we need to know
have gone to a Tim Hortons rave about it.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when I was in Canada, man, that poutine was good. I had several things of poutine while I was there, and I couldn't have been happier.
It's all about the poutine with Coach.
That's right.
So on November 26th at 1 a.m., Daniel is seen on the rear deck of a residence in the 6500 block of Squamish Valley Road. From there, he is seen walking along a trail that led back to Lewis Drive. Now, the last confirmed sighting of Daniel was on November 26, 2019 at 1 a.m. This is on the rear deck of the residence in the 6500 block of Squamish Valley Road. This just so happens to also be the residence of his auntie. People there stated that he walked off the deck through a trail that led to Lewis Drive. His auntie described him as acting strange before he just walked off. Now, that same day around 2:20 p.m., the Squamish RCMP get a report of an abandoned vehicle, and the person reporting it said the vehicle was running and the driver's door was ajar. Now, this was Daniel's vehicle, a black 2004 Honda Civic with BC license plate JL933R. Inside was Daniel's cell phone. So quite the conundrum there. Now, at 4:15 p.m. on January 7th of 2020, a family member went to go check on Daniel and could not reach him. It is discovered that he had not been seen since before Christmas. Now, according to the police, they were told this was way out of character for Daniel, not to be in touch by phone on family members' birthdays or holidays. The Squamish PD conducted several welfare checks and were unable to locate him. Daniel was classified as a missing person officially on January 7th of 2020. Police and the Squamish Search and Rescue conducted searches in the Squamish Valley and Paradise Valley areas that day, and searches would continue on into February. So on February 11th of 2020, a press release from the Squamish Police stated, quote, officers continue to search daily for Daniel from the sea and sky. RCMP General Investigation Section, Squamish Search and Rescue, and the Integrated First Nations Unit were on the waters and shoreline of Squamish Estuary and the Camas River. We will continue to do varying tasks per missing persons investigational file and work with Squamish Police and Squamish Search and Rescue on the land and water. End quote. So the same day that we talked about around 2:20 p.m. that they get the report of the abandoned vehicle, you have to keep in mind he had been seen, I think, what was it, November 26th was when he walked off the deck. This report did not come in until January the 7th. So that's over, what is that, 5 weeks, almost 6 weeks until he was reported missing. Now, there's some details that come from his family and friends and other witness statements. And now we're going to start intertwining those details from Daniel's family and friends and what we know to be factual and details from Marshall's family and friends. I hope to keep them straight, so y'all just buckle up, Buttercup. So we know that Marshall lived in an apartment in Calgary. He was in Lethbridge visiting his mom and went to his storage unit. Now, Lethbridge is a 2-hour and 20 to 30-minute drive southeast of Calgary, and the storage unit is about 10 minutes from his mom's home. Lethbridge is a 14-hour drive west, so if you're in Lethbridge, you got to drive 14 hours west to get to Squamish. If you are in Lethbridge and you decide to drive to Pemberton, you're looking at 12 hours and 33 minutes to drive to Pemberton. And that, remember, is the location where Marshall's truck was found. Actually, a little bit further, about 31 miles north of Pemberton. Now, we also introduced 2 unknown individuals at this time. I think their names are out there, but nothing's been confirmed, and I don't want to sully the name of a good criminal. So we just going to refer to them as Unknown 1 and Unknown 2. So, unknown.
That's no fun. Let's say the names, man.
Well, it's none of this stuff. None of this stuff that we're going to talk about is factual and has been proven factual. So I don't want no phone calls.
Oh my gosh!
I know.
You only live once, man. We got to piss some people off.
I'm sure we have.
Oh, we have. But why stop now?
So, Unknown 1 is a person that is friends with Daniel. And not just acquaintances. They are said to be good friends. Now, Unknown 1 and Unknown 2 are friends, but Unknown 2 and Daniel are just acquaintances, not good friends. So I hope you're keeping up. So Unknown 1 was known to do drugs with both Daniel and Unknown 2. Unknown 1 has a well-documented and lengthy criminal history, including robbing storage units and violent assaults with deadly weapons.
Ooh.
Based on statements from family and witnesses in the local area of Squamish, Unknown 1 was actually out of town for multiple days around the time Marshall would have been at his storage unit. Now, a little bit about Unknown individual number 2. He was friends with Unknown 1, but only acquaintances with Daniel.
You said that already.
Well, allegedly, Unknown 2 hits Daniel with a hammer in 2018 and assault charges are filed.
Sheesh.
Yeah, allegedly.
Well, the charges were filed, right?
Well, it was just filed as assault. It didn't say, but people have, the interwebs say it was a hammer. So Unknown 2 has a documented criminal history that is lengthy as well, and his includes storage unit robberies and violent assaults. I know that's a shocker. Model citizens, don't you know, eh? So these two individuals are documented drug users, have a well-documented criminal history that has turned violent on occasion. You know, great suspects if you're looking for two missing men. So Daniel lived in the Squamish area approximately an hour and 13 minutes south of Pemberton. Now, remember, some of the items found at the burned out truck included passport IDs and phones belonging to Marshall. That's according to his family. Several other items found at the burned out truck were also confirmed by the family to be the things that Marshall had in the storage unit. Now, this is where it gets very, very interesting. According to Daniel's family, the cooler that you can see in the pictures of the burned out truck was not Marshall's. It belonged to one Daniel Rioch. It also...
It did have his name scratched on it.
Oh, no. It also had the name of unknown individual written on it. Unknown individual 2's names on it.
Oh.
Now, allegedly, it's not unknown individual 2's cooler. It's just one of those things where he put his John Hancock on it. I think that's more of a Canadian thing, because I'm going to tell you something. If one of my friends signs their name to my cooler, I'm putting my foot in their ass. Now, remember...
That's how you really feel. Don't hold back, man.
I'm not. It's the medicine. I'm going to blame it on the medicine. Now, remember, it's been officially documented that both of the unknown individuals were known to have done drugs together with Daniel. Also, there was 2 trash bags of clothes found at the burned out truck, and they are confirmed to be Daniel's clothes that he normally kept in his car. And I think we're talking black trash bags, like big old yard black trash bags, not your kitchen white ones. In the photos of the truck, you can see the bags of clothes. You can see a red cooler in the background. So that's the cooler that we were referring to. And that's the one that had unknown individual 2's name written on it. Which is extremely strange just on the surface to have a cooler from a guy that lives close to 15 hours away. And his truck's found in a remote area, torched, and it just so happens to have some other guy's stuff all around it. And the guy's stuff
that's got the shell of a PlayStation, the shell of an Xbox, that are known transports for nefarious things.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Daniel's stuff's around the truck, and he's been missing for 6 weeks. Or nobody's seen him for 6 weeks. He was reported missing in January. So, again, we go back
didn't he disappear maybe like 6 days after Matthew's stuff is found?
Marshall's, I'm
sorry.
I got the date. Hold on. We covered it. I don't remember what where's it at? He was last seen November 26th, which is the day after the truck's found.
Yeah. So somebody got out of Dodge, or somebody got took care of, because now the other person's been found. And 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead.
True. But again, remember, we found a burned out truck in the middle of the wilderness, which is a crime to set anything on fire, especially a truck. You also have a missing man's belongings in the bed of truck of another missing man, but yet the RCMP says there's not a crime been committed.
Oh, God, this is terrible. Terrible police work.
Yes. All right, so we're going to do a hybrid timeline of both Daniel and Marshall. So all of these dates and times are based on the family's statements. So from November 17th, 2019 to November 18th, 2019, between 11:30 p.m. and 6 a.m., Marshall was trying to gain access to a storage unit in Lethbridge to allegedly get computer parts before heading back to his apartment in Calgary. On November 23rd of 2019, Marshall's burned out truck was found in the remote wilderness 31 miles north of Pemberton by the hikers. Now, this would be roughly 122 miles north of Squamish, and the police don't get up there until the 25th. Based on comparisons of photos taken by the hikers versus the cops on November 23rd and November 25th, items at the scene were disturbed by someone. on November 25th, 2019 at 10 a.m., Daniel was picked up by the RCMP acting squirrely. Now, they would not say for what, but it's been assumed that he was intoxicated or high. Now, this is on a ranch north of Squamish and south of the burned out truck. Now, some theories state that he was picked up as a person of interest in the burned out truck, but I could not find any official word that that was the case. Now, remember, the RCMP are up there at the same time they picked Daniel up. They're also investigating the truck site. And then for some reason, they cut Daniel loose. On the surface, if he was drunk, they just let him dry out and then cut him loose. What is known is when they picked Daniel up, he was not dressed for the weather or the conditions to be out and about anywhere, much less at the side of the truck or at this guy's ranch. Now, on November 26th...
he was on this ranch and, he was not dressed for the conditions. He didn't have his cell phone. He had to borrow a cell phone. And didn't they find his vehicle, running?
Found it running with the door open, and his cell phone was inside.
Yeah. So he's acting word.
Yeah, he is acting word. So on November 26th of 2019, that when old Daniel storms out of his aunt's house and walks off the back deck. It's believed that he was high on an unknown drug. Now, during a
didn't he he said something along the lines he called his uncle from the guy's cell phone and said something along the lines of he was on a different plane of existence or something really weird like that.
Yeah, like he was tripping balls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, during a conversation with his aunt, he mentions he got into a fight with a friend down at the river. It is later discovered that this is with unknown individual number 2. It is also noted that he was staying with unknown individual 2, who is the mutual friend of unknown individual 1. So he had been staying with the guy that hit him in the hit him with a hammer earlier, or a year earlier, and then he gets into another fight with this same guy. Now, unconfirmed, but the aunt was told by several people that unknown individual number 1 had actually moved Daniel's car at some point. Daniel was last seen wearing black shoes with white trim around the soles. His right shoelace was black. His left shoelace was white. He was wearing black baggy pants, blue and black tan / whatever plaid button-up long-sleeve shirt, along with a blue and beige / black button-up long-sleeve jacket and dark-colored suspenders. So that it ends the, I guess you could say the details, facts of the case, quasi-facts. We're going to get into the theories now. And there's 2 main theories out there. And they're not official RCMP, and I gave you that disclaimer at the beginning. I just want to reiterate it, okay? These do not come from the RCMP or any local law enforcement that has been investigating this. This just the internet talking. So theory number 1 says that Marshall was the unlucky victim of a crime. Marshall's an innocent young man, and he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And with the criminal history of the 2 unknown individuals, it's theorized that they randomly ran into Marshall at his storage unit and attempted to rob him. Something goes wrong. Marshall's killed. On the way back to Squamish, the 2 unknown individuals dump Marshall's body. So this is when he left his mom's house and went to the storage unit. This could explain why he was stressed trying to enter the key code. This would make sense for him staying at the storage facility until it opened at 6 a.m. and not going back to his mom's house. We know he's not going to drive all the way back to Calgary because that's a couple hours away and it's late at night. Again, it's plausible that nobody's with him and he just decided, fuck it, I'm going to sleep in the truck because I don't want to go back and wake my mom up. He definitely would not have wanted to drive, like I said, the 2+ hours back to his apartment in Calgary and then get up the next morning and drive another 2+ hours back to the storage unit. So the 2 unknown individuals we know have access to Daniel's car. So it's theorized that they drive Daniel's car to the storage unit looking to rob certain units. They have a rap sheet of robbing storage facilities, and what a better way to pin it on someone else than by driving someone else's car, a la Daniel's car. Now, in the first theory, it is partially premeditated that they were going to rob a storage unit or units. Now, this theory states that Daniel is not with the two unknown individuals. They go to the storage unit, something goes wrong, Marshall's murdered. They're in Daniel's car. Now they have Marshall's truck, so they drive back to the Pemberton area. Now, this would account for why Daniel's or Marshall's credit cards were never used again, because neither was driving. They would definitely need gas, so either they paid in cash or used their personal debit cards or credit cards. This also explains why the RCMP did not see Marshall on surveillance video, because he wasn't driving. Now, there is the possibility that the unknown individuals 1 and 2 knew of the remote area and figured that would be a good place to burn the truck. The fly in the ointment is some of Daniel's belongings were left at the crime scene. The theory also does not explain why they would fling a bunch of Marshall and Daniel's shit around the burned out truck unless they're trying to implicate Daniel in Marshall's disappearance, thus keeping the spotlight off of them. But we're not dealing with rocket scientists, because they left a cooler with one of their names on it. So not very smart, if you're buying theory number 1. So Daniel at this time was staying with unknown individual number 2. And when he finds out about his stuff being left at the scene of a burned out truck, he goes to the scene to try to destroy evidence or pick up his shit. And on his way out to the truck site, he is actually on his way out from the truck site. He is picked up by police, and that would kind of make the whole timeline fit. So if Marshall was at the storage unit, you're looking at it being the morning of the 18th. A 14 to 15 hour drive means the earliest they're getting to Pemberton would be late on the 18th, early on the 19th. Now, it takes a while to get to the spot where the truck was found, so if it's the 19th, you're looking at quite a bit of time to get up there. They burn the truck, and that's enough time for them possibly to get back to Squamish on the 24th. Daniel finds out about all of this, goes up there to try to get his belongings or the evidence of him being there away. When he comes out, he's picked up by the police in Squamish. He gets into an argument with the two unknown individuals, and if we're going under the assumption that they're willing to murder some random person at a storage unit once they find out that Daniel was at the truck scene and is picked up by the police, they decide to tie up that loose end and off Daniel. And that's theory number 1. Plausible, but again, there's no factual evidence to back any of those claims up. So theory number 2 states that Marshall was actually selling and trafficking large quantities of drugs. Now, the theory goes that Marshall, having worked in construction, and that's how he enters the drug game. There are some rumors that Marshall had recently just paid off his truck, and a lot of people on the interwebs are not buying that he went to a storage unit where he frantically tried to get in a lot of times over some simple computer parts.
Well, that makes sense, though. I mean, why try so hard if it's just computer parts?
Now, this theory states that Marshall's at the storage unit not to get the computer parts, but to pick up drugs he had stored there that he planned to traffic west to the Pemberton and Squamish areas. This would explain why nothing seemed to be missing from the storage unit. If you think that it was robbed by the unknown individuals, you have to question why was the storage unit not just ransacked.
True. Well, maybe they encountered Marshall and had him show where the stuff was.
Right. Now,
where's your valuable stuff? You don't give us your valuable stuff, we're going to kill you right now.
Also, in this theory, it's likely that no foul play happened to Marshall until he got to the location where the truck was found, which was the location that he was having this drug deal go down. Now, this wasn't a small-time drug deal. This was a major quantity being moved, and these two unknown individuals are possibly higher on the food chain than first imagined. So remember, Marshall wanted to swing by the storage unit the night of the 17th. If he had gotten in on the 17th, this would have allowed him to get to the drop much earlier. Unfortunately, he couldn't get into the storage unit until the morning of the 18th. This puts him arriving in Pemberton late on the 18th or early on the 19th. So now he's late for this big drug deal, and for some unknown reason, he gets to the remote location to make the transaction, and the buyer's pissed that he's late, and he's offed. O-F-T. Maybe.
I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at the fact that I used that yesterday.
I use it quite
O-F-T, oft.
I use it quite regularly. So maybe Daniel and the buyer get into an argument about him being late. The buyer gets heated, turns around, shoots him, kills him, disposes of the body, rips out the steering column of the truck, torches the truck. But before torching the truck, they decide to ransack his belongings because you never know. There might be some extremely valuable stuff in there. Or like Coach always says, if you're going to kill somebody, go ahead and rob them.
Right.
This would explain how all the shit got on the ground. This also would explain why it looked like someone was looking for something. Now, this assumes that the buyer or buyers, possibly unknown individual 1 and 2, were present. Now, we know that they know Daniel and have some sort of influence over him due to selling him drugs and doing drugs with him. In theory number 2, Daniel knows unknown individual 1 and 2, but he's not directly involved with the disappearance of Marshall. One of the unknown individuals uses Daniel's car to meet Marshall for the transaction in the remote location north of Pemberton. Shit goes sideways. Marshall's killed. They remove the belongings from Daniel's car to make room for what Marshall was transporting with his truck. The clothing that's strewn all about could be that Daniel had more than the 2 garbage bags full of clothes in his car. They dumped the clothes out of the garbage bags to put the drugs in them. The 2 unknown individuals get back to Squamish, and this is when Daniel finds out what the hell's gone down, has the fight with unknown individual 2, shows up at his aunt's house talking out of his head, high as a kite. Now, this theory is more along the lines of not framing Daniel, but just using his stuff because it was there and they needed trash bags, and he was just collateral damage. So if we keep following this theory, Daniel finds out about all of this, gets into a fight. Once he gets into a fight, he takes off for the site, tries to get his stuff out of there so that he's not tied back to the whole shit show. And remember, the aunt says that Daniel was high at her house and then he suddenly leaves. And this could be explained as he's trying to summon up the courage to go up to the scene and, quote, clean up his stuff. But he's high as fuck and screws it all up. On his way out, he's still high as shit. He gets picked up by the police because he's seen by this rancher acting squirrely. This is when the unknown individuals find out that Daniel has not only been to the crime scene, but he's also been questioned by police. He is murdered to keep him from implicating them to Marshall's disappearance or murder, depending how you want to look at it. Now, again, the cooler kind of is the fly in the ointment, because if you're trying to clean something up, you want to make sure you remove anything that has your damn name on it. And they didn't.
True.
Okay, so there's an eyewitness sighting of both Daniel and Marshall around the time when Marshall went missing. Now, this is a quote from a gentleman who saw them at a bar at the time. So actually, I found this in 2 different places. I got like the official little, like, probably how the police took it down, and then I have supposedly the guy recounting what he said. The guy recounting it is a little hard to read and understand, but we do know his name is Michael Frederick Marlowe, and he was an acquaintance of Daniel And Michael spoke with the police and was recruited by them. And allegedly, supposedly, I've not looked for it, but this whole statement, recorded statement, is available on social media. And goes like this. I wonder why the route to Vancouver Highway 1 is not one of the projected routes taken. Only 3 routes were mentioned during the last couple of weeks. November 2019 in Squamish. At the Irish pub, my watering hole, there were 2 guys. One seemed strange. I picked up bad vibes. The other looked like Marshall. They sat in the pickup truck similar to Marshall's with Alberta plates for a couple of hours. Another local fellow, also missing from the time frame, Daniel, was seen with them. He has not been found either. The Irish place has since been closed, but I wonder if video footage is still available from the bank machine that was inside the bar. I remember a fellow who seemed distressed as he tried to use the machine. He never got any money and went back to sit in the pickup in the parking lot with the shady guy. Daniel left his guitar behind the bar with the bartenders. 2 days later, the RCMP come in and asked questions as well as picked up the guitar. I only slightly knew Daniel because he's a local, but he did say to me, that guy is weird. I think he is going to kill us. Then
he disappears. That's not suspicious at all.
Yeah. Nothing to see here. This Mr. Marlowe goes on to state, I just kind of laughed it off as we sat outside having a cigarette. A couple of days later, Daniel's car's found in Chikai, idling with the driver's door ajar. If the 2 young guys were killed, their bodies are probably between Chikai and Pemberton, where Marshall's truck was found burnt. That Irish pub was situated in the Sea to Sky Hotel in Squamish, British Columbia. Now, Mr. Marlowe also says that he was interviewed by Corporal Michael Hamilton of the Pemberton Detachment RCMP. He was also asked some further questions on social media about whether or not the RCMP took his testimony seriously. He goes on to state that yes, they did take him seriously. I see the 3 guys together the day before Daniel was in custody. I'm guessing I seen them on Sunday, November 24th or Monday the 25th. Marshall's truck was found on the 27th, I believe. It all ties together, especially since the red cooler in the photo was from the vicinity Daniel last resided. He was asked another question about which one of the men kept trying to use the ATM machine at the pub. He replied it was Marshall trying to use the bank machine. He tried 3 or 4 times without success. He seemed a bit troubled, and I literally thought about asking him if he was okay. His truck was parked in the parking lot of the bar, and the shady dude was in the driver's seat. Seems to me that he must have had some kind of power over Marshall to keep him in tow. They sat in that truck for a couple of hours. Daniel and I went out for a cigarette, and we were just small talking, and that's when, as I'm finishing my smoke, Daniel says, the guy's going to kill us. It's just too heavy for me, and it seemed out to lunch, so I just brushed it off. So, yeah, that's a lot to unpack.
It is. It's definitely a lot, but the fact that information exists, it's known, and the RCMP still says there's no crime is just insane.
Right. This guy did report it to police, and they took an official statement. So you got 2 unknown individuals with lengthy rap sheets, history of violence, history of breaking into storage units. You also now have Daniel and Marshall at the same location on the same night. Also keep in mind that this is a small town, so it's not just a coincidence that Daniel and Marshall are seen together at a bar. Those low odds would be super low. Now, while they may not have been friends, they may have not just known each other. Oh, yeah, that's Daniel. Oh, yeah, that's Marshall. Now, this is where you have to kind of throw theory 1 to the side. The notion that it's just a random robbery gone wrong is losing its luster with this guy's statement. We also know they, like I said, had a history of robbing storage units. I don't know the IQ of the 2 unknown individuals, but I would assume they're not going to shit where they eat and rob storage units in their backyard, which would explain why they were at Marshall's storage unit. Now, they could if they were tweaked out of their minds, but if they know each other and they're involved in the drug trade, and let's say that Marshall uses his storage unit for holding drugs, they would potentially know this. So maybe you have a mixture of both Theory 1 and Theory 2. So what if they know that he has a storage unit and that he keeps the drugs there? They have never been able to find out where it is, so they follow him one time. And if Marshall is moving large quantities, he's not just going to tell people, yeah, man, I'm holding it at a storage unit. He could have told them, I'm going to visit my mom, and then I'll meet y'all up there, and we can swap these drugs for cash. Now, this keeps them from thinking that he's going to pick up some of the drugs. So Marshall goes and visits his mom to make sure that he's not being followed. He doesn't drive directly from his house to the unit to pick the drugs up. The drive between Lethbridge and Squamish/Pemberton is a long, grueling drive of nothingness. So if you're involved in the drug trafficking/drug selling, you would want to keep the goods somewhere that is not very highly populated with not a lot of prying eyes, so that it couldn't just be stumbled upon by some average Joe. Now, there are a lot of coincidences and overlapping dates. We know for certain that these unknown individuals are actual people that Daniel was either acquaintances of or friends of, and he also did drugs and sold drugs, or they sold drugs to him. The connection to Marshall is what's crazy. If Daniel's stuff wasn't found at the site, I would say it's just a really weird-ass coincidence. It would be a hell of a lot less convincing, but I still think small town, not a ton of people, very remote, they're going to know each other. Marshall's background, from what I could find, was pretty clean. He was going to college, and at face value, he was different from Daniel in the sense that he didn't have a documented past surrounded by drugs. So he's in college. He's writing his own video game, like from scratch, like writing the code. So, I mean, he's not a dumbass. So Theory 2 is not a good theory if you are Marshall's family. Like I said earlier, these are all theories with zero facts to back them up. And these theories have circulated the internet and allegedly started from some locals knowing more than the media and the police were putting out. We know Daniel has a history of drug abuse, and he's buying drugs from these two unknown individuals who have a very long and violent criminal history. All of a sudden, Marshall's truck ends up 15 hours away in a remote location with Daniel's stuff scattered around it. Now, another quasi-theory would be that Marshall was friends with Daniel, and they met up for a drink. Daniel and one of the unknown individuals get to talking. This unknown individual is just a mean, twisted, few bricks shy of a full load. Maybe Marshall jokingly insults the guy, and this guy loses his shit and decides that he's not going to be disrespected by some punk-ass college kid. The unknown individuals drive Marshall in his truck to the remote site and kill him. Daniel freaks out, gets high as a kite to deal with seeing Marshall murdered, is picked up by the police, and the unknown individuals find out he was pinched. They get him to go with them back to the side of the truck, maybe under the guise of, we'll help you clean up all your shit from there so they can't tie it back to him. It was a good place to kill Marshall. They killed Daniel. Still leave a bunch of his shit up there so that he's implicated. But again, if they're that criminally sound, they fuck up and forget the cooler. And that's the best theory I got right there. The eyewitness sighting at the bar makes the whole case extremely strange, but it lends more credibility to Marshall knowing Daniel and the two unknown individuals. Not like friends, but they were connected. My gut feeling is the police know way more than they publicly announced because there's something bigger going on. And then that also is a rabbit hole because a lot of people think that the police are sitting on all of this information and evidence because they're trying to get a bigger drug ring. I don't know.
That might be true. I mean, there might be something to that, but you know, they're pulling a Columbo, making themselves seem just dumb.
They've done a good job of that stuff.
Dumb and uncaring just to bust a bigger fish. I don't know.
I don't either.
Maybe, but I don't think so.
Here's what's weird. There are several other disappearances in the area around this time. The first disappearances were Ryan Provencher, 38, and Richard Skur, 37. They were last seen July 17th, 2019, in Metro Vancouver. Ryan's white 2019 Jeep Cherokee was found on July 21st, parked in a wooded area near Logan Lake. The lake is between Kamloops and Merritt. 1 month later, their bodies were found in a rural area north of Spence's Bridge, which is about 3 hours east of Pemberton. The RCMP has said that there was criminal behavior associated with that case, but no further details or cause of death have been made public. Then earlier in 2019, Ben Tyner, 32, was last seen, they think, around January 26th of 2019. This has vibes of missing 411 stuff. Tyner was a working cowboy and disappeared from the Merritt area after riding into the hills to look for missing cattle. His abandoned horse was found fully saddled on a Forest Service road northwest of the city 2 days later. Police said that Tyner was last seen at 2 p.m., but it's unknown when he rode into the backcountry or where he was headed. Now, this is about 4 hours east of Pemberton. Search and rescue teams scoured the area, including crews from Nicola Valley, Kamloops, and several other locations. Police said that nearly 40 search and rescue members were on site along with search dog teams to no avail. Then we have Ryan Shuka, 20, and he was last seen February 17th of 2018 in the Spence's Bridge area. His burned out white 2003 Ford E250 van was found without the steering column on the Sachem Forest Service Road 12 miles from his home the following day. No details on whether there's no details on whether any of his belongings were found or were missing. Cadaver dogs searched the area in June of 2018 and turned up nothing. Police say they considered the disappearance, quote, suspicious, but there's no leads, no suspects, and no news. It's all in the police's hands, according to this man's and to the Shuka family. So this is not just a one-off. There's some strange shit going on up there.
Well, I mean, yeah, they may actually just be sitting on stuff to try to bust a bigger thing, because it sounds like something bigger is going on for sure.
Yeah, I'd say so, Coach. I'd say there's a lot of shit going on up there. And that Spence's Bridge area is not some place I want to vacation. There's like 3 people been murdered up there. So what's your theory?
I don't know, man. I think I don't want to say it was drugs but it just seems like it might have been drugs. But maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe they didn't know each other. Maybe it's just, I don't know. There's too much I don't know. That's why I wanted to do it, is because I had no clue.
Well, the thing with the coincidence is 1 or 2 I could see, but it's a small town. I mean, people are going to know each other. And then you start racking up these coincidences. It's just crazy. Now, the whole drug thing could be Marshall had no dealings with that and was just knew Daniel, got pinched in the moment. Daniel may have owed these guys some money. They think Marshall may have money. That would explain him going to the ATM at that bar a couple of times unsuccessfully, but I don't know. Marshall's family's not come out and said that him and Daniel were friends, so that would kind of clear that up.
Well, maybe they didn't know.
True. That is true. So I don't know, man. I think it's I know I kept hanging on the cooler with the guy's name on it, but there are a lot of real smart people that get caught on some stupid shit like the cooler. Yeah. So several of those theories could hold true, But you're looking at, and I keep going back to those unknown individuals. They've got to be pretty smart not to have implicated themselves in any of this so far. So I don't know, man. I really don't. I have no idea. I do like the little theory that I gave about how, it's just it's a quasi theory, but I don't know, man. It's crazy. Crazy. That's what I'm telling you.
Right.
All right. So recommendations.
Go for it.
Well, there's a new show on Fox, and I'm trying to give it. There's 3 episodes out there. It's got Kiefer Sutherland's half brother as the lead, and Kristen Creek. How do you say her name? Kreuk. She was part of the Superman back when we were kids.
No idea.
Oh, you would know her if I showed you a picture of her. But anyway, she's in it. It's called Murder in a Small Town. It's actually filmed up in British Columbia, I think. It's okay. It's all right. There's another one on the old Hulu that I think is real good. I can't think of the name of it. I'm looking it up as I talk. This lady's actually the cleaning lady for the police department, and she has like this photographic memory, and she can see things, make connections and stuff. Trying to see what it's called. It's not Dateline, I can fucking tell you that. High Potential? Yeah, High Potential with Caitlin Olsen. It's good. I like that one a lot better than the Murder in a Small Town on Fox. So those are my 2 recommendations.
Well, I'm going to recommend a documentary series. It's like 4 episodes. Most people won't have AMC Plus, so you might want to try to find it on YouTube or somewhere streaming, pirate it or something. But it's called Look Into My Eyes. And it's about that case from like 2011, I believe it was, where the principal was hypnotizing kids.
No shit.
And one died in a car wreck.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
It's pretty interesting.
All right, so I forgot this one.
Pretty interesting.
This is where I eat crow and save a little for throwing my wife under the bus. There is a podcast called Noble. Have you heard about that one? About the Tri-State Crematorium up there in your neck of the woods?
Yeah.
Have you seen that podcast? Or have you listened
what called?
Noble.
It's called what?
Noble.
Noble?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a 10-part podcast. So if that Tri-State Crematorium was something that you was interested in back when it happened, that might be a good one.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I think Noble, isn't Noble the little unincorporated town right there where it was at?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. All right.
You don't know what we're talking about. There's a crematorium where the crematorium broke. He didn't pay to get it fixed, so he's just putting rocks around people's waists and throwing them in a lake and then giving the families like freaking dirt.
Or ground up concrete.
Ground up, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and when it broke, all the Atlanta major news had like helicopter footage, and there's bodies fucking everywhere.
Yeah, it was wild.
It was bad. And that old boy's out of jail now.
Is he?
Yeah. Because desecration of a body, even that many counts, he took a plea. I think he spent his 20 years and he's out.
Dang.
Yeah. Bet he ain't a funeral home director anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
that
Coach,
goes without saying.
You got anything else for the people out there?
You know I don't.
Deuces.